Well, this is our last time together, and I really wish I could be there today, because if I could be, I would want to shake your hand, maybe give you a hug, certainly give you high fives, because you have been willing over these weeks to move beyond your own sense of restlessness over wanting to make a greater difference with the rest of your life, to begin to realize that the rescue mission of Jesus, that mission that gives everyday stuff eternal significance, that can actually be used to take people to heaven with you, is what you've been restless for, to do something that big and that significant. You've been willing to move beyond where it's safe and comfortable, where most Christians want to stay, in the lifeboat with the other people who, are already saved, just enjoying the fellowship of the already saved. You've been willing to consider yourself as one who would spend the rest of your life pulling as many people into the lifeboat as you can. You've begun to realize that you've been divinely positioned by God to be where you are and who you are, to take people to heaven with you. You've learned to pray the three open prayer, Lord, open a door, and Lord, open their heart, and Lord, open my mouth, and not only pray for, but look for, anticipate opportunities, God-given natural opportunities to talk about Jesus. You've been willing to stretch beyond Christianese that we're so comfortable with and so used to find new non-religious ways to express the most important message in the world. And I just want to thank you for your dedication to this. It's been good to do it with a group of people, hasn't it? There's something about moving into a new thing in our life, moving beyond safety, about being able to go there with other people. Now, this group will not be meeting about a life that matters after this week. There'll be other things you might be meeting about, but whether or not this group is meeting about it, I hope you'll take the power of doing this together and make it a part of your life. Find somebody there, or several somebodies, to be regular prayer partners. Pray by name for each other's person you want to take to heaven with you. Be accountable to each other. Tell your stories to each other. Tell your stories of where you feel like you did it and where you felt like you missed it. And get back up again and encourage one another. And go into a future of rescue together. See, it's not enough that just a few people become a part of the rescue mission. The only way every unbeliever is going to have a chance at Jesus is if every believer becomes a rescuer and gives them that chance. When that tsunami hit in South Asia and we saw that over 200,000 people died, basically in a day, and we found out that one of the major reasons so many people died was the absence of a warning system. There was no warning system to let them know the tsunami was coming. Now they're trying to work on one and catch up with that. There was one man, actually, who in India heard about the earthquake in the ocean and said, you know what? I'll bet you that the people in my village, he was in a major city, I'll bet you the people in my village don't know about this. And he managed to get a cell phone call through. And they abandoned their boats and their villages and ran to high ground, and they all survived, 150 people in his village, because one man gave the warning. But so many people died because there was no warning system. God has set up a worldwide warning system to tell people how to be ready for the tsunami of death and judgment that claims lives every day on this planet. In the United States, 6,000 people go into eternity every day. In the world, 150,000 people will go into eternity today, ready or not. Tragically, many not. God's worldwide warning system is His people. He expects, His plan is that each of us will be His witnesses, that we will send the message, we will sound the alarm, we will tell them about how the judgment has already been taken by God's Son on the cross. So I hope you will be a part of helping to motivate many more believers to carry the message that we've shared together into many more lives, so there'll be many more rescuers, so there'll be many more rescues. We'll be talking in our next few minutes about some of the mistakes that have been made that have kept us from having a movement like that and having the reality that Most Christians never tell what they know about Jesus, even though the eternities of the lost people they know depend on it. Like assuming they want to. That we just assume people want to. If we showed them how to, they would. We almost should assume that they don't care. They're not really that interested. And we need to begin to talk to them about their restless hearts and why God has made them restless and this great new work that God wants to give them that will give their life eternal significance. Sometimes we use worn out words. They're great words. They're even Bible words. Witness, evangelism, soul winning. But sadly, they just kind of lay there. They don't motivate people. They don't inspire anybody. They just think it's another church program or something some evangelist does or some professional God salesman or a committee in church talks about. We need to begin to talk to them about rescue. Because when you hear it's rescue, you know it's life or death. And you drop everything to get to a life that will be lost if you don't get to them. We sometimes make the mistake of defending our turf and just trying to stay within our little group of Christians. You know, one of the reasons we have not impacted our community for Christ is, first of all, we've been more interested in church growth and community transformation. We're trying to grow our congregation instead of transform our community through spiritual rescue. The church will grow the way it's supposed to grow if you're involved in getting out into the lives of lost people. It's time we get beyond turf, because turf doesn't matter when people are dying. We need to get together with believers of other churches and other denominations and make this a movement of rescue. Maybe one of our greatest mistakes of all is to have a dependency on programs instead of prayer. You know, Jesus said, the harvest is plentiful. I got a lot of lost people ready like harvest, but the workers are few. My problem, Jesus said, isn't with lost people, it's with my people. And he said, pray the Lord of the harvest that he will send out laborers into his harvest field. And that word in the Greek, send out, is to forcibly expel. It's like, well, casting out demons. It's used of casting out demons, throwing cargo overboard, throwing people out of the temple that aren't supposed to be there. Forcible expulsion. Jesus is saying people almost have to be forcibly expelled into the harvest work of Jesus. We'd rather be consumers than producers spiritually. So we can only break through that by prayer. And ultimately, don't forget that programs are not contagious. How many programs have there been to try to reach lost people? And hardly any have been reached. Now, programs aren't contagious, but passion is. And if you've allowed God to break your heart for lost people, and you begin to express that to other believers, that passion is contagious. Well, how can we move from what we've learned to being a part of an even greater impact through a movement of rescue? Let's spend our next few minutes talking about those things as we move from here and consider where we are now. Not a parking lot, but a launch pad for a whole work of rescue that could impact our whole community. I guess the best way to leave our times together is to leave you with a challenge from God himself, found in the book of Jude, verse 23. It says, snatch others from the fire and save them. It tells us that this business of telling what we know about Jesus is life or death, that it's rescue, that we are literally snatching others from the fire. But it implies that someone snatched us. Someone was there to rescue you. Someone told you about Jesus. And now we get to be the rescued who were rescued to become a rescuer. Rescue is not just a Christian activity or a duty you're supposed to do. It becomes the governing passion of your life to help as many other people be in heaven with you as you can. Now, I don't really have an assignment for you next week, but I have an action step that could be any week. And that is, it would mean an awful lot if you would go visit our website, communicate back with us some of the stories, some of the rescue stories, some of the questions you have. And also, I think you'd find some help there and some encouragement in the rescue work that God has called you to do among the people that you know. You might even want to view the bonus feature that goes with this series, where I spend a few minutes talking about how to help a person now live the relationship you've helped them begin, with the 5 secrets of a great relationship with God. Once you've begun life's most important relationship, where to from there? There's some help in that area in the bonus feature that comes with this. President Ronald Reagan died what they called the long death of Alzheimer's disease. And over those 10 years, he progressively began to forget great parts of his life, even his great life accomplishments. First of all, he forgot his entire movie career. People would come to him and talk about old movies and try to make conversation, and he would go, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he forgot everything about being governor of California. Ultimately, people would say, Mr. President to him and talk about some of the great achievements of his presidency, and he remembered nothing about that. He didn't even remember being the president. But there was one thing that Ronald Reagan remembered almost to the very end. His wife Nancy had set up an office for him in Los Angeles, kind of a way for him to have some dignity and get dressed up and go to an office a couple times a week. And when you went into that office, you saw a picture of a river on the wall. And people would, trying to make conversation, say, Mr. Reagan, what's that picture of the river? And he'd go, oh, I can tell you what that is. That's the Rock River in Illinois. That's where I was a lifeguard when I was 17. And then he'd smile, and almost to the very end he said, that's where I saved 77 lives. After every accomplishment of his life had been erased from his mind, there was one that still remained, the lives that he saved. And when your journey on this planet is over, your life is done, as you look back and all of the accomplishments of your life have faded into insignificance, there will be one that remains. The lives that you have saved. In Jesus' name. It is no wonder that the prophet Daniel tells us, those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars forever and ever. That is a life that matters forever.